Hey folks, what's going on tonight? We are back. I think we'll go over some of our 53 and anything you guys want to talk about. Let me know in the chat if you want to come on tonight. And with that, I'll do the intro video.
Y'all ready for them Chiefs? Y'all ready for them Chiefs?
Okay. I think Steve will be joining us shortly. Hopefully Bryan will get in on it. What do we got going? We got Thomas Passwater here. Dara Miller made it. Let me know if you guys want to get in here. I'll send you an invite, or I could just post the link, I guess, to my Twitter like I did last time. Let's do that real quick. Is that Stevie?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, Neil?
Yeah, pretty good. Self-adjusted here.
Okay.
Hey, Daryl. Hey, Thomas. You haven't heard from Gooch.
Hopefully we will. Okay, there's my Twitter handle if you want to get in and talk with us.
Hey, Schmitty.
Have a little fan meetup here. Schmidt?
Let me get this on here for a second. I gotta look it up really quick.
What are we looking up? I thought we'd probably get into our cuts to make or not. We're just playing 53.
Yeah.
We could always see how close we were with the super early one.
I don't even think I have a written record of it, though.
I do have mine somewhere.
By the way, I'll throw in some shameless plugs here. I'm wearing my Jason Dunn jersey that I got from Jaden at Jaden's Jerseys, and you can find the link in the description there. Jaden's a part of the RGR and BAK community, and so as a fellow Chiefs fan, and he takes care of all of us rogue heads and backers. So you guys, if you got to get a new jersey this year, I know some people out there who are looking to replace their number 10 jersey with Isaiah Pacheco jersey, so, or whatever it might be.
Good idea.
Right? So make sure if that's in your plans this year that you check out Jaden's jerseys. He's on Instagram and TikTok. So, but give me a second. I'm trying to find.
Hey, Liz, the wife made it. William. We got William Bradley here now, not just William Schmidt.
Yeah, here, let me, I'm going to let me create a banner here really quick.
Backwards on the toilet somewhere. Yeah, it's always a possibility with Gooch.
Right.
He was trying to teach people how to do it last time. So they have some kind of rest for their head, I guess.
All right, I'm going to throw this up really quick since we have Schmitty in the comments here. He has a channel with his friend as well, and it's called All Chiefed Up. I think I got that right. So
I didn't know that.
I think they have about 13, 14, 15, maybe up to 16 subs now. Yeah, they just started it. They've been doing just they did each preseason game. They did a tribute to Lenny the Cool. So yeah, you guys make sure you go check them out. I found it kind of funny so far. So and his friend reminds me, and I haven't told you this. I don't know if you go by Bill as well, Schmitty. I haven't told you this, but he reminds me of George Kittle. So his friend looks kind of like George Kittle, at least in my opinion. So
Really?
anyway, so yeah, they're finding their way. So yeah, go check them out. Willie's cool. All right.
I'm posting to my Twitter the video. Still having some trouble with some gnats, but we're buying stuff to get rid of them. It's not working as quickly as I'd like it to.
What you should do is just print off some pictures of Gooch and hang them around your house. Gooch must not even be listening to us.
That'll work for gnats too.
Well, it'll work for gnats. Here's the problem, though. Because flies like... No, I'm not going to go there. People think I'm serious. Sorry, the kids are quite rambunctious today.
Sounded like a cat fight.
We had like 4 days of really nice weather, so they were able to go outside, and then it was 99 today, so we're back trapped inside.
It's a little hot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
I am not going to have to deal with the heat as much now. Going to overnights. Still don't know what's going on with their talking about changing the schedule around. So,
Yeah, guys, things could be things. The schedule could be up in the air, right? We'll still find ways to go live and produce content, but the when may change. Well, it'll quite likely change.
yeah, I'm switching over to overnights now, so I'll be able to make the Q&As and stuff like that, but not as easy to make the midnight live that way.
Right.
Unless we do it at a different day. And then we may not have Keas or...
Yeah, I think my wife is switching to mornings, so I'm not sure what that'll do. I might have to end up waking up earlier, but Thursday night was a lot of fun, but when I finally went to bed at 4:30 in the morning, like the whole time I slept, I was dreaming that we were still live and I was talking. So like I woke up and I was not rested at all. It was completely exhausting. So hope you guys all like that content that I did in my dreams.
Hey Maui, good to see you. Glad you made it.
Hey Maui.
You missed us talking about Gooch being on the toilet. I'm switching to overnights, so the schedule is gonna change a little bit. We're still gonna try and do the midnight, but either Steve or I will possibly not be able to make it. I'm going to 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. But they're talking about switching the schedule around on that. So, yeah. Still having trouble with gnats, sorry. I like to try and attack my face. Yeah, always a good one, right, Maui? Our toilet humor.
Yeah, Gooch lives there.
And Holly's not even here for it.
Hey, Willie, is that your friend you're talking about? I forget. Is his name Cody? I think his
That's
name's Cody. Something
that's
like that.
five
Cody.
five.
5'5"? So he's about CEH height.
Yeah, I was meaning to go over and sub to Schmitz.
Yeah, and I'll make a note to go in and Adam is one of the channels that we not sponsor, but I forget what the term is. We have a whole host of them on there.
Oh, it doesn't want to come up.
What are you trying to pull up?
Chiefed. All chiefed out? Is that what it is?
All chiefed up.
So I don't have the all in there. Is my problem.
Maui asks, how concerning is the depth on the O-line? You know, I look at it two different ways, Maui. One is that, you know, I don't know about you, Aaron. I think we feel fairly comfortable with Allegretti as a backup guard and center, and I'm not too sure after that. I mean, Prince Tega Winogo has been on this team for like 3 years now. Garen Christian looked pretty good last year, starting at left tackle for the Texans. You know, for what that was worth. You know, I think the big thing is how they look at a unit. You know, isn't necessarily indicative of how concerned we should be if we have to have one of those guys, you know, fill in. And I mean, the reality is, even when you have, you know, good solid backups, like I feel like our backups, you know, when we played Super Bowl 55, the backups we had on the team that year were pretty solid backups. But when you get a whole offensive line of backups, and then on top of that, you know, because I think this is the pressure point of why we get so concerned about the offensive line now. On top of that, and I'll have to go back and find the source, but I saw it a couple weeks ago. The Chiefs only used a 5-man protection like 95% of the snaps in Super Bowl 55, which was insane. It was like one of the top 3 or 4 times that's ever happened in NFL history. And this was with essentially a backup offensive line. Like, only 5% of the time did they have tight ends and running backs help chip and stuff, according to the stat that I saw. So, yeah, I'll leave that for what it's worth.
It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah,
that you
like,
wouldn't.
Even with the starters, you know, 5% would have been 95% would have been insane. You know, again, it was like the top 3 or 4, you know, times this ever happened in NFL history. It was like right up there, the top, you know, 5 times that this ever happened, or the most.
The all chiefed up that I'm looking at has 1.12 thousand subscribers. Is that not the right one?
Unless they blew up over the weekend. Here, give me a second.
William Bradley or Bill is going to struggle to watch all the Chiefs games this year.
Out. Oh, you're right. It is out. My bad.
It is out. Okay.
Sorry. Aaron was right the first time. That's on me.
Okay, now I'm subscribed.
Here, I'll put it up so people can see.
Gotta help each other out.
1000%.
Get our smaller channels going.
That's what you guys should see if you get there. That's what it looks like.
Okay. I definitely got the right one this time.
All right.
Hopefully we'll all get each other there, Schmidt.
Anyway, I definitely do want to see them pick up some backup offensive linemen, and we did the calculations last Thursday. It's like what 832 players getting released or waived. So outside of the Chiefs, so there's going to be some talent out there. If we have some weak links, we're going to be scouring the waiver wire. My understanding is that even if the players, like we waived people, I think as early as Friday morning, my understanding is they technically don't actually hit the waiver wire until Wednesday. So we don't even have an opportunity to start claiming guys or have our guys get claimed if we waive them until Wednesday is my understanding on that.
That sounds correct to me. Do we want to go over 53? Do we want to do like a collab?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's try to wait to see if we can get Gooch on. If we can't, we can't. But if we can give him a few minutes to where maybe he can get on here and we can all do it. I don't know if he's listening though. I don't know if you sent him a text.
I have not. He should know by now.
Willie, the weekend's always short where I'm at. I think it's probably always short where Gooch and Aaron are at too. Probably everybody.
Yeah, I worked last night till about 1 or so.
Yeah. Maui says Kennard looked decent last game, even though it was against 2s and 3s. Yeah, I mean, I think he's he's probably going to be a bit more of a project than it sounded. As I remember Gooch talking about hearing Andy talk about how good Kennard's foot speed or footwork already was, but he's got some work in there. But I mean, the good thing is with Coach Reed and Coach Heck that and the veterans that they have in that offensive line room, that if there's talent to be tapped out there, that they're going to get it out of them. I've seen a lot of speculation though that he gets waived and they try to put him on the practice squad.
Okay, and I might have to run off or at least mute and stop my cam. So we do have dinner on the way. Liz took forever picking what she wanted, so. Gotta love women, though. I don't have a choice in that.
I can't say anything. My wife, when it comes to a lot of the typical things, like my wife and I are like opposite of like the gender stereotypes, and so like I'm the indecisive one when I'm looking at a menu, and she knows what she wants, and when
it comes to food, we're both pretty indecisive.
Well, I mean, not even just food though, like everything. Like she won't buy herself, like she won't go shopping, buy herself stuff. I have to buy her clothes and stuff, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. Some people call me lucky.
Yes, I'm sure you are.
NFL I'm assuming that's talking about like the NFL Sunday ticket. Is that what we're talking about? What DirecTV has until next year? I think so. I got to have it for like 2 years when I was in Mississippi because I technically lived in college housing, and so I could get it on my PS3. But other than that, I haven't been able to, and I hate DirecTV, and I would never actually get DirecTV. But I will be happy when they no longer have control of it, if that's what we're talking about.
I have Dish Network, and we've had some games blacked out and had to use the antenna. Had to buy an antenna to use the antenna so we could still watch the games.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would like to do away with Dish since we have the Fire Stick and we can pretty much watch whatever we want on there. I don't watch the Dish all that much.
I mean, you know, the crazy thing is, like, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but it's like the more channels you have, you know, the less likely you're able to find something you want to watch, and the less channels you have, like, the more likely you're able to find something you'll watch. And I don't know, it's just it's been an interesting phenomenon to me. But there's all kinds of apps out there now. You know, if you have like a smart TV, to where there's thousands of movies and TV shows that are free. You know, all you're paying for is internet.
I've got Hulu and Netflix, and then there's Roku on there, which that's how I'm watching Quantum Leap. If you know that show, might have been before your time.
Are you talking to me, or are you talking to the audience?
You specifically.
Yeah, it's probably before, or I don't know. Is it? What's the genre?
Sci-fi.
That's what I thought. I'm super picky about sci-fi.
Late 80s, early 90s is when it was on TV. And there's definitely episodes I missed for whatever reason. So it's kind of cool to go back and be able to watch the whole thing. Especially when it's been 20-something years.
I mean, that's an interesting discussion. How about this? Because this show isn't just Chiefs and it's not just football. Let's all talk about this. Or not, it doesn't matter. But what's a TV show or TV shows that you could just watch every episode all the way through the end and just, start over. Just keep recycling it and watching it over and over.
Supernatural. There's been a few. Tell you what Liz likes to do is Roseanne and the both Tim Allen shows.
Yeah.
Last Man Standing and Home Improvement. She will watch over and over. Her mom reminds me a little bit of Roseanne.
I've actually met her, not talked to her, but I've actually
Roseanne Barr?
Yeah.
Yes, Thomas. That is one of my all-time favorite shows. 15 seasons, I think it was. It might have been more than that. Better Call Saul, that was a good one. Did you ever see Mr. Show that Saul was actually in? Him and Dave Cross. David Cross was on Arrested Development that you've brought up before.
Oh, are you talking to me?
Yeah, well, just then.
No.
Talking to everybody. Try to include everybody.
David Cross, that's the actor that played the analysis plus therapist, right?
That I don't know. I haven't watched it all.
The analrapist.
That's, yes.
Yeah.
That guy's pretty funny. I actually went and kind of heckled him at a show in Columbia that he put on. It wasn't. I was drunk, so I was hollering stuff. I wasn't really trying to heckle him, but he gave me a look at one point. It's like, okay, you can stop now.
I'm pretty sure that's like a subgenre of heckling, saying stuff while you're drunk at a performance.
He had a big beard and everything. He's like, I'm sure if you know me from your show, it's kind of weird with me with the beard. I was like, yeah, it is. Oh wow, I would check that out. We may have even talked about that before.
They're
Gonna
doing
make a
remakes
remake.
of everything.
Yes. Scream was one that's over and done with. Came on and then over and done with. One of Steve's kids. I think they're just hollering though, not crying.
Yeah, no crying yet.
Good to see you, Hefe.
Give him a couple of minutes. I'm sure one of them will hurt the other.
Well, you have enough boys. That's what happens.
Right.
I got my head split open a couple times. Broke my brother's hand a couple times.
The one you like or the one you don't like?
Yes. Go outside. They don't always like to listen. Crazy dogs. Lady likes to sit there and just stare sometimes. I know she hears me. The other one, maybe not so much. She's about to be 14. Okay, so
Anything from
yeah.
Gooch? All right, here's a text.
I
from
have
Gooch.
not.
Midnight. What? Gooch?
He can't keep a schedule in his head for anything, apparently. I'm saying right now, Goofy. And our food's here.
I told him to turn around and get off the toilet.
Okay, I see that one now. Liz is trying not to make noise. The way
Trying
they have
not
the
to?
food. Yeah. The way they have the food is not easy to do that.
Hefe, I think that comes down to how it looks like Juju has fit in the offense. And I think this is kind of their first kind of sign of goodwill towards Juju, because to me this signals that they want to try to have him be a Chief after this year. And I'm not sure that was necessarily the case when they signed him in the off season, but that's how I'm taking it. What about you, Aaron? I know you're getting ready to eat here and you're probably muted and can't talk, but
What was the
that's
question?
how I'm taking it. Why did we give Juju more incentives?
So we can pay him less, I would assume, and he can bust his ass to try and get those incentives. Get more for less kind of deal.
I don't.
Hopefully.
They didn't take that I know of. They didn't take anything from the contract and change it into incentives. They just upped they like doubled the incentives, what he can get from his incentives. So it would only add to his contract. But I'm pretty sure that's what
Huh.
it is. Really, the only reason you're going to do that, you know, well, the only other reason I could think of is, you're a drama queen and you start making some noise, before the season starts. But
I would think to get max effort out of him, but yeah, I don't know. But all right, I'll be back.
this is BAK. That's the great thing about this channel is we can just keep throwing those jokes out there. It's the joke that keeps giving. But yeah, I don't know why I just never really. It's not that I hate sci-fi. It's just I'm like super picky about sci-fi. But I don't know. I'm weird in that way anyway. Like I have very few bands that I like, and I'll listen to music from like every genre of music. But most bands, there's only a couple songs that I actually like from them. It's very hard for me to like basically a band's whole album. So I guess in the next, we're not quite at 48. The next 44, 45 hours, I think we'll have a pretty good idea of who makes the roster and who doesn't. So I don't think there's gonna really be too many surprises, and I know we'll get into this here a little bit deeper when Aaron gets back and maybe when Gooch can join us. But kind of thinking about the offensive questions, I think the question is going to be two quarterbacks or three quarterbacks. How many running backs? In addition to Michael Burton, 6 or 7 wide receivers, and if it's 6 or 7, who's the 6th or 7th? I think Justin Watson's clearly on the roster, so yeah, I'm assuming at this point it'll be 3 tight ends. I mean, technically it'll be 4 when they do the roster cuts, because we have to keep Blake Bell on the roster for Tuesday, and then after cut time, then we can put him on IR. If we do it before then he has to miss the whole season, as Gooch pointed out on the live stream, the midnight live stream Thursday night. So technically we'll have 4, but Tuesday night we'll only have 3 on there, and I'm not sure they'll replace him with another tight end at this point. If Bushman hadn't got hurt, maybe they would have did that. But so then on offense, I think it's really going to come down to the backup offensive line, and I'm not sure how many of those guys they're going to keep on the 53. And that'll be the other thing, is it's basically guaranteed that just because there are some guys on there that you want to make the 53, the guys that are, say, 50 through 53, those guys are still on a bubble even after Tuesday, because once the team starts scouring the waiver waiver wire, there's 800 some players, and we're going to be looking to bring some of those guys in, and there's going to be guys who are sighing a deep sigh of relief because they made the team, only to find out the next day or a couple days later, hey, we found somebody else that we like, and so we're going to waive you. So yeah. Thomas asks, who would be a surprise to get to the practice squad? Surprises in who would I be surprised if we were able to sneak them through waivers and get them on the practice squad? Is that what you're asking? I'll wait for you to clarify on that one, Thomas, and I'm going to hit Willie's question and comment here, or comment. Willie says, I think they want to keep Juju long term and incentives. Maybe his contract goal is to work towards an extension. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I really see it as kind of a way to, kind of butter him up a little bit. Kind of, it's kind of a show of good faith, is my take on it. The Chiefs are showing themselves to be a class act organization, and when you look at it in contrast to some of the stuff that Tyreek Hill has said, I think you kind of see how silly those words are. And so to me, that's how I take this. It's their way of saying, hey, we want to give you a chance to earn it even more. Like the original contract, it may have been, hey, this is the best we could do. And then they saw him in OTAs and training camp, and stuff happens. We gave Travis a little more extra upfront money earlier this offseason as well, and so is this just their way of saying, hey, we've liked what we've seen so far, and we feel like we're willing to commit to you after this season, given what we've seen so far. So because of that, we kind of want to sweeten you up a little bit and build this relationship up, because we do want it to be a long-term relationship, so that's kind of how I'm looking at it. So that's what I think the goal is ultimately to work towards an extension. And so at least as long as the season goes good, by doing things like that, they can build that relationship, and Juju can, feel respected and valued by the organization, and he'll remember that when it comes to extension talks or, whatever. So, all right. Thomas clarifies here. To sneak through. Who would be a surprise to get to the practice squad to sneak through? Man, my opinion's probably going to be wrong on this. I don't think it's going to be as easy to get Shane Buechele, through waivers as some other people do. There were teams that wanted him last year, so we elevated him. Not that they wanted him to be their starting quarterback or whatever. And as a friend of the show, Dan Andrews, has said, other teams like Andy Reid coached quarterbacks. I mean, maybe he makes it through. It's really hard to judge, right? Because, if we remember last year, I didn't really care for Cornell Powell, so I wasn't emotionally invested in it. But I remember all the people that said, "Oh, he's never gonna make it to the practice squad," and I mean, clearly he did. So I guess if we're talking about players that I'd be surprised if they got through, it would almost be players that I would be surprised if they got cut, because I mean, you could make a justification either way, right? Part of me would say I would be surprised if Kennard made it through because he was a 5th round pick, but given his tape, maybe he does make it through, right? So I mean, I guess it's just your mindset. If Gooch were here, he might say, well, Dustin Crum was priority UDFA number 1. And so if we waive him, there's no way we're going to pass him through waivers and put him on the practice squad. Well, if that's the case, then he's gone because we waived him and, nearly immediately after preseason game number 3, which is interesting. It seemed like he didn't play that game and they waived him almost immediately. So it's almost more like it wasn't to showcase Shane Buechele, but more because, sometimes they don't want to have to, if they know these guys aren't going to make the roster, they don't necessarily want to play them and risk them getting injured, and then having to come to an injury settlement. At the end of the day, it's pocket change for the organization, but it does matter somewhat. So, I mean, I would, I guess I've been more impressed with Shane Buechele than other people have. But, to me, yeah, he doesn't have Chad Henne's knowledge. He doesn't have Chad Henne's brains. He doesn't have Chad Henne's ability to read a defense. But, the Justin Watson touchdown, he did make the audible on that play. He has a stronger arm than Chad Henne. As I pointed out in the RGR chat, Chad Henne on the pass to Sky Moore that drew the defensive pass interference call, that gave us a first down. On that pass, it was a 30-yard pass, and Chad Henne underthrew it, and it looked like he had everything he had into it. Chad Henne's almost my age, and any of us who are 35 or older, know once you start getting to that age and you start, your testosterone starts dropping and everything, like you can start to deteriorate, fairly quickly. And I'm not saying that's the case with Henne, but his arm doesn't look strong. The last time we saw him in a regular game, the last one I remember seeing, he threw a terrible interception. He's not as fast as he used to be. And if teams drop 7 or 8 into coverage and he doesn't have anywhere to throw, he does not have the speed to, take off for 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 yards like Mahomes and Shane Buechele have. And so, yeah, for me, I think Buechele showed enough on film that I would be surprised if he were to be waived, if he made it and we were able to put him on the practice squad. Personally, we're assuming players who, like I said, clearly like a Pacheco, if somehow he got cut, I don't know why he would if he got waived. I wouldn't, expect him to, but that's not going to happen. So, I don't know. Powell might have shown a little bit more this preseason than last preseason. It's kind of really hard because like I said, there's 800 some players and every team's going to be scouring, the waiver wire for those players. And I'm not sure a whole lot of these guys are going to be that desirable to other teams. So I think if there were some, they would probably be on the defensive side. Maybe Malik Herring, if we tried to waive him and put him on the practice squad. Last year we did that. Was it last year or 2 years ago? We did that with Tim Ward, and we lost him to, I believe, the Jets. So, yeah, maybe some of the secondary guys. I don't know. I see Gooch is in here. Gooch, what do you think? Who would be a surprise to sneak through the practice squad? For you, who would be a surprise if we were able to sneak that player through to the practice squad?
I don't think there's going to be any surprises. I think if we let go of somebody that's got some potential, they're going to get scooped up. I think the people that they released right now, Fleet Davis and Crum, and I think the tight end that injured his clavicle, I think they can make the practice squad. But I think if we try to let go of anybody, first of all, any of our offensive players that we let go, I mean, they'll either make the practice squad or be waived. But I'm with you. If they try to let go of anybody worth anything on the defensive end, I don't think, outside of Kane, though, they might get snatched up.
Doesn't that kind of seem funny, for us to say, because we think of the offensive side as definitely being the stronger side of things. So, like, I'm not saying we're wrong. I'm just saying it sounds weird to say that if somebody got waived or cut on the offensive side, they'd be less likely to get snatched up as someone getting cut or waived from the defensive side where we haven't been as strong. But I think it's because they've attacked the defense with volume and they've gotten some decent players in that volume. maybe, we're not talking necessarily about high floor, high ceiling guys, but some guys that have decent floors and decent ceilings in there, and those are the kind of guys that come cheap and they can be good on your roster as backups, and I think that's kind of why we're at that part.
I also think it's one of those things where you sit back and look. If you can't make Andy Reid's team, do I really want you on mine? Andy Reid, the offensive genius. If you can't produce for him, it's like Belichick. Unless you're on Belichick's team and you know that he's cutting you a year too early because he don't want to pay you, if you don't make Belichick's defensive unit, do I want you on my team? Like,
yeah, I think one, it depends on like the talent you have at that position, and two, I mean, they still have the film, right? And so they can still see, are you technically sound, whatever it is for the position you're playing, or are you, do you understand your responsibilities? Are you doing everything on your end? Is basically, are you producing good process, with that? And so I don't know. I think, that for the most part, the tape is going to speak for itself. But yeah, I think we do have some decent depth at certain positions. The fact of the matter is, it's just not, those players aren't quite good enough to make this team. But yeah, I see Holly is in the house. Hey, Holly, Skymon 75 beatbox. Law and Order. Yeah, which Law and Order? Because there's like 7 Law and Orders. But yeah, I used to watch Law and Order with my grandmother. My grandma lived right across the street from me, so I spent a lot of time. And that was her nighttime, one of her nighttime go-to shows, Law and Order. All right, Thomas asks, what about a surprise player that doesn't make the final 53? Surprise player that doesn't make the 53. Oh, man. That's a good question. I mean, it's for me. I think there actually is a decent possibility. Maybe you could call it a coin flip that Kennard does get waived and they put him on the practice squad. Some of that is kind of reading the tea leaves with some of the Chiefs kind of beat reporters, the guys that are, around the team a bit more and have a pulse on that. So I would say, if we're going to talk about that, it'd probably be someone like Kennard. On the offensive side, I wouldn't be really surprised. I don't expect to be really surprised about much anyone else on the offensive side. On the defensive side, it would probably be someone like, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, if that's what you're asking. It would probably be if they ended up cutting someone like Dana or Wharton off the defensive line. I don't think that's going to happen, but I would definitely be surprised if they did that. I don't know how big of a surprise, though, but there's probably a decent chance. Again, kind of a coin flip situation with maybe Colin Saunders. I don't know, because, at this point, there's some guys that I would say are kind of a toss-up, and I would say most of the roster is fairly set. I think it's going to come down to 5 or 10 guys, and when Aaron gets back here, we'll hit where we're at with our 53 versus the one that we did all the way back in what was it, May, I think, Gooch. Hey, Scott, good to see you in here. Aaron is eating right now. Gooch is listening, but he's been on here talking a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, Holly, I'm always going to root for Saunders. I think he's fun to watch. I still like to see him get some goal line carries on the offensive side. But, at the same time, I wouldn't be utterly surprised if he didn't make it. It'll be interesting. I think I think it tells you a lot about the early cuts. The later cuts, some of these guys may not even get waived, until the last minute, simply because they do want to try to they want the waiver wire to get flooded. Like I said, there's going to be over 800 players, when you go from 80 to 53 and you have 32 teams doing that, 31 other teams. And so the waiver wire is going to get flooded, and the guys they try to wait at the end there, in my opinion, are the guys they're trying to really sneak onto the practice squad. Because the guys that they cut they waived right after the game. So players who have 6 years or more, I believe, get cut. Players who don't have those 6 years are waived. And so cut players automatically become free agents. Waived players go through waivers, and that won't begin until Wednesday. And so, the waived players that were waived immediately, to me, are the guys that they don't really care. Not that they won't end up on the practice squad, but if they don't really care, because they're exposing these guys 2-3 days ahead of time, as opposed to doing it, at the last minute when there's a dump of cuts and waived players on the list. And so, yeah. I mean, that's the hard thing to know, Maui. At the end of the day, we're all just kind of, it's just all conjecture, right? We don't 100% know. Like I said, I remember last year, Dan Harms and the people that really believe in Dan Harms were all huge Cornell Powell apologists, and said the same thing about his college tape and his potential. So he was definitely going to get claimed and picked up by another team if we tried to waive him and sneak him onto the practice squad, and no other team wanted him. So. It's really kind of hard to judge. I don't know. I'll say this, at the end of the day, while I might have feelings towards Kennard, and I think we said, a few weeks ago, like, in a lot of Chiefs fans' minds, every player that we drafted was going to make the team. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wishful thinking like that. It was never going to happen that all 10 guys made the team. Will I be kind of disappointed if they waive him? Yeah. Would I be even more disappointed if another team, were to claim him? Yeah. But, at the same time, to a certain extent, like I don't give them 100% pass because of Super Bowl 55, but at the same extent, if Andy Reid and Andy Heck, if those guys feel like Kennard cannot progress, during the season to the point where he could play, to where they feel that putting him on the practice squad, would be the best place for him, like he wouldn't be valuable at all, on the active roster, then, I would have to, I guess I would have to get over those feelings and to some extent, defer to their judgment, because those guys know a lot more about offensive line than I do. But yeah, I'm not saying I want these guys to get cut because I don't. I'm gonna root for our coaching staff to pick the best 53 and for them to play, as the best 53 man team in the NFL, and for those guys, to continue to improve and to play at higher and higher levels. The guys on the practice squad, to put in their hard work and elevate their games and push for a 53 man roster spot. The guys who get waived or cut to keep grinding and keep their chin up and make an NFL roster. It's just, you can only control what you can control. So, and yeah, right now it's just all kind of conjecture. Scott asks, are the drafted rookies overhyped by 25%, 50%, or 100% each year? Man, they definitely get overhyped, and that's kind of the funny part, because I think it goes back and forth, right? There's like there's a segment of us that are kind of underwhelmed by the picks initially, and then there's guys out there who dig deep into the film, and then they start hyping up the players and telling us why we're wrong and why we should love the pick. And then sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're wrong. So yeah, I think it just depends on the rookie. I think it depends on the year, and I think it depends on the source. Training camp's fun. Preseason games are a lot better and a better judge, but actually doing it in season, I think we, as a fan base, probably overhype. I don't want to say overhype. Well, we over expect out of rookies by 75%. Like, I don't think we have realistic expectations for what a rookie at any position should be capable of doing. And so in that way, I think we ourselves just place unfair expectations on our rookies.
Did we get to the Cornell Powell question yet?
What was it, Cornell Powell?
I would be surprised if he made the 53-man roster.
Oh. You would be surprised if he did?
Yeah. Him, Corey Coleman. I'm just going to say it. I don't think Kennard makes this team.
Coleman is more likely than Powell.
I would say so. Yeah.
No, I think Fountain is the last.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think it would take, for either one of those to have a chance, I think they would have to come back, after they put Blake Bell on IR Tuesday afternoon, and then bring one of those guys back and roll with 7 wide receivers. I think would be the move, would be the only way that Coleman or Powell make the 53. But some of it depends on how much you read into the preseason snap counts.
I think Coleman could make it onto another roster. Powell we'll get to our practice squad with if we want him. Hey, Scott.
Coleman was out a year or two as well, wasn't he? He kind of had a similar situation to Josh Gordon, if I recall correctly. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Legal trouble?
Yeah, I don't remember if it was drugs or what. I'd have to Google it here really quick, but I thought that there was a specific reason.
That I didn't know.
Let me look here real quick. Yeah, because he was last in the NFL with the Giants in 2020.
I thought he just didn't live up to the potential. Like he didn't try.
So he was suspended last January for the first six games of the 2021 season for violating the performance enhancing drug policy. That's what it was.
Which could be anything.
But yeah, he did, as Scott said here. Yeah, he tore his ACL. He tore his ACL 2019.
Okay.
He was re-signed to the Giants practice squad in 2020, and then released from the practice squad, and then January 2021 was suspended. But yeah, let's see if there's more of that.
I was interested to see how he would do once we signed him to the futures contract. But yeah, he impressed me some with his returning this last game. I think he made a real good contested catch too. And Powell did his norm.
Hey, like I said during the live stream, Thursday night live stream, I thought Aaron Parker's catch in the Packers game was better than anything I'd seen out of Powell this preseason.
I would definitely agree with that too.
But Powell did get a good share of special team snaps. So, I mean, again, you take it with a grain of salt. Was that because they were trying to give him a chance to, prove that he belonged on the roster? Was that because, they thought he was playing solid special teams? We really don't know.
Giving him every opportunity in the world.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's all it could be, Unfortunately, Nick Jacobs, who is the source of that, of all the snaps, he went and counted all the snaps. Unfortunately, he didn't count the snaps for the 10 players that we have already released, this preseason. And it would have been nice to have those so you could kind of see the trends, like the guys that got cut after preseason game number 1, how much did they actually play, and the same thing for preseason game number 2. So, but
did I see something about Lamons getting cut?
I haven't. I only saw the initial 5, and he wasn't.
I saw something in the RGR chat.
Hey, it could be.
Lamal, whatever we're gonna call him.
It could.
I actually think Lemons makes the team.
I would have thought so with his play. I'm with you, but I thought I saw somebody said he got cut.
Yeah, well,
So, yeah, that would surprise me at this point.
I was surprised they brought him back though, and not because because of Tobin's special teams, but because he's the player that was, that the police reports indicated started the Alvin Kamara fight. Like, he's the one who started the fight. Of course, it helps that Alvin Kamara is the headline name there, in that group of guys, and they were on the same side. So, does anything happen with that? We haven't even really heard anything about that fight, but I was surprised they brought him back, because they brought him back after, that news came out. He wasn't on the team when that happened.
If they've released him, Aaron, there's no document, there's no updates about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping he's not gone. Honestly, I thought he really showed out in the preseason.
Only thing I've seen everywhere is the 5 that we've let go. I think Fleet Davis, Crum, Roderick Johnson, Mike Rose, and I can't remember what the other one was.
Mike Rose, I'm actually not surprised on. I thought he would pop a little more in coverage, but
Yeah.
Now tomorrow, I think there's going to be a big. Like they need 27.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
think tomorrow. I think
22
tomorrow
more.
you'll see about 15. Now they're down to 80, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they need 27 to get
Well,
to 53.
no, they got to be at 75 now after those 5.
Okay, is it 75? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, cuz they after the first preseason game the following Tuesday they cut from 90 to 85, and then the same thing after the second one they cut from 85 to 80. And they have to be at 53, but they released those 5, or they waived those 5, so they're at 75 now.
And so they've got. I mean, I think you'll see a big run, probably down to 3 to 5 until Tuesday, because I think that's what they're stuck on.
Yeah, like I think if you still haven't got cut or released yet, it means it's a hard decision. And in my opinion, as I'm trying to think through it logically, I think those first 5 guys, it was because they knew, like, there wasn't any debate about them versus anybody else on the roster right now. They were clearly not even close to the roster bubble, is the way that I read it. And Roderick Johnson, I expected more from him, but I'm trying to remember now. I think it might have been Nick Jacobs on Twitter. The Pacheco play, right? The 3rd and 1 or whatever, 4th and 1. The Pacheco play where he got blown up in the backfield. Nick Jacobs was like, "Yeah, everybody else was sliding this way, and he slid the wrong way on his block, and he's the one that was responsible for leaving the Packer guy that just destroyed and welcomed Pacheco to the NFL."
who missed the block?
Roderick Johnson is what Nick Jacobs was saying. So, he was like, "It's no surprise. It's no surprise to see that he was one of the first 5 gone." So we want to hit while we're here and talking about it, and all of us are here. Go ahead and talk about the 53 then.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, the easiest
We're
3
gonna
are
make
special
this,
teams.
Collaborative deal. You guys are the tiebreakers.
What we talking
We
about?
have 3. Go over our 53.
Let's do it.
Or not so early.
Now, is this who we believe the 53 is going to be, or who we think the 53 should be? Because those are 2 different things.
I think this should be who the 53 is going to be, because it's not going to be what we believe anyway. So we might as well just take a stab at it.
Fine by me. The real KB, welcome.
Hey, good to see you.
Let's start with quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, who it's going to be is Mahomes and Henne. Doesn't mean that's who it should be, but it'll be Mahomes and Henne.
I'm of a different mindset.
Okay.
You actually think they carry Buechel then?
If they don't want him to go, then they'll carry 3. I went back and watched the preseason games again, and I cut bait.
Broke up a little bit at the end there.
Yeah. All I heard was you went back and rewatched the preseason games and that was like all I heard. I'll be anxiously awaiting for the rest of that sentence.
Now,
Darn it, he keeps breaking up. Okay, so yeah, I think he makes it.
He's holding us in suspense here.
Is that what it is? Showmanship.
Oh man, bad enough that he dropped off. And he's back. Kind of.
now, don't get me wrong. I still think it should be Henny. God forbid anything happened to Mahomes. But if I was a business, if I ran a business like I do now, and I have the option of paying the older guy or paying the younger guy less money and hoping he just learns, now I'm going to take the list. Plus, he showed out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? He did his thing. And if you try to put him on the practice squad, he's not going to make it. He won't get there. The second you waive him, somebody's signing. Especially since Darnold is now down in Carolina. They're not going to try and re-sign Cam. The Browns stupidly think they're going to go with what is that boy's name?
Is it Jacoby?
Yeah,
Jacoby Brissett this year?
Yeah. Like, they don't want to go with him. They just don't want to pay the money for Jimmy G. There's a lot of people who could use a strong arm quarterback that's mobile, and I don't think Michelle makes it. So you don't want to carry three because that takes a spot away from somebody you want to keep. Cut bait with Henny. The cap is only going to hurt you this year, and you've already got your squad.
Well, I believe I put out like an 8-point argument on the last live stream about why we should keep Rochelle and cut Henny, and I was told I was an idiot. So, yeah, I'm shocked right now. But
doesn't mean I don't still think that. I just think I went back and watched the.
There we go.
I just went back and watched the games and was like, he doesn't look too bad. I mean, I try to be objective and fair, and I try to think of the fact that Henny didn't look good, but that second string line was horrible. But then the kid with his legs was able to do some stuff that Henny can't do, and Father Time's undefeated.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying like Henny would be terrible. I'm just saying like if you're gonna use something where like the offense, if Pat can't find anything, he takes off running. Henny can't do that. So you either lost it down, didn't gain any yards, or you suffered a loss of yards because he got a sack.
Yeah, I mean this was one of my main arguments, especially with the way that if teams continue to play us dropping 7 or 8 into coverage and not even blitzing us, if they do that even with Henny's there, and if I'm them, I would definitely do it with Henny there because, like I said, if you go back and you watch that the pass to Sky Moore in the Green Bay game that drew the defensive pass interference or defensive holding, whatever it was, that was a 30-yard pass, and Henny, he looked like he had all of his arm into it, and he underthrew it. And
my biggest proponent for Henny is the simple fact that the kid is young, and defensive coordinators who are worth their salt at their position would eat up young guys like that on the defensive end.
Blitzing constantly.
Right. And so my biggest proponent for Henny is the fact that he started in this league, and let's face it, there aren't very many new defensive coordinators, so he's seen most of them and would be able to have that mental Rolodex to either audible out or at least do something, give him some yardages instead of with a young guy who isn't as talented as Mahomes, because I'm not saying every quarterback is like that, but for every Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, there's Mitch Trubisky, you know, um, Jacoby Brissett, those guys. That was my big argument for him. Talent wise, absolutely go with Bouchel. I'm just more concerned that if we kept him and defensive coordinators start mixing up the coverages and stuff, and he doesn't know what he sees, it would be a hard few games, which could cost us a playoff spot with as talented as the top of the AFC is.
Could be a hell of a learning experience. So.
That's true.
Well, I mean, I think this is where Andy Reid makes his money, though, is, if any offensive mind can take a young quarterback like that in those situations and, put together a game plan for them, it would be Andy. And I still think that the physical things, make it easier to do with Bouchel than they are with Henne, because, again, if you're a defensive coordinator, do you have an easier day against Bouchel or against Henne? For me, I'm looking at Henne and I'm thinking, okay, he doesn't have a strong enough arm, so I don't have to worry about playing, too high safety, 20, 25 yards deep like I was doing against Patrick Mahomes. And I don't even really have to, I can just key in on the run. And if Henne has nowhere to throw on a passing play, I don't even have to worry about him taking off because my defensive ends can chase him down before he gets anything. And that's what we saw in the preseason. Whereas at least with Bouchel, if they do blitz, Andy's going to be smart enough to give him his easy options to get rid of the ball quickly. And if they try to do the same thing where they drop 7 or 8 into coverage, Bouchel has the legs. He can take off, get 5, 10 yards at a time. But he also has the arm that he can throw it deep enough that defensive coordinators would have to respect that as well. And I don't think Henne has that. He doesn't have the arm strength for defensive coordinators to have to respect, and he doesn't have the speed for them they don't have to respect, him scrambling at all. So at the end of the day, just based off of how defenses have played us, I see Henne being a real detriment on this offense. And I don't want to throw out a Ben Roethlisberger comparison, but I will.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of too high. Tyreek's gone. They're going to believe they can play regular defense again and come up closer because they don't believe Mahomes can pick them apart. There's no fear. MVS, for all his speed, doesn't put fear into my heart. You know what I'm saying? He just doesn't. Juju does because he's a yak guy and he's big. You know what I'm saying? Sky does. Travis does. MVS doesn't scare me.
He's been making contested catches, and he's a pretty big guy himself.
I understand that, and I'm not saying that he's not good. I'm just saying you're not going to get defensive coordinators scheming for MVS.
So I'll throw this out here because I thought it was interesting. I don't know if I have it. Yeah, I have it right
before
here.
You do that, before you do that, who asked the question? To get Alex Smith, Scott. To get Alex Smith as a backup QB or a QB coach, all it takes is a phone call from Mahomes or Andy.
I don't know. All it takes. He's spending time with the family, at least for a little bit. Still.
That's overrated. That's Tom Brady.
Well, you lose less physically going with the kid, but you lose quite a bit mentally.
Yeah, it's just pick your poison.
Really?
Right. I mean, this is a Dan Sorensen, or I'm not going to say Juan Thornhill because he was a 2-year player last year, but this is, if we'd kept Dan Sorensen, it'd be a Dan Sorensen versus Bryan Cook type of scenario. But Anyway, what I was going to say, because you were talking about Juju and MVS, who, by the way, Aaron Rodgers to MVS, second most 40-plus yard pass receptions after Mahomes to Hill since 2018. That same MVS, I've started looking through this book on the Chiefs' 2021 third down offense, and it's got every single third down play the Chiefs ran in 2021 from game one all the way through the playoffs. And I started to flip through it, and I didn't get very far before something caught my eye here, Gooch, and that was that there was a play where a receiver not named Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce was bracketed. You want to take a guess who that receiver was?
Pringle?
Demarcus Robinson.
Are you? No way.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
Seems ridiculous.
That's
Just
how I
wait for
remember
the guy to run backwards.
That's how I remember it. And because I didn't get that far. I got 2 or 3 games in, and I'm like, what? Demarcus Robinson got bracketed? And so that's why I'm bringing it up, because if there was a defensive coordinator who was willing to bracket Demarcus Robinson, it's got to say something about the receivers we have on this team this year. There's a good chance that some of those guys are going to get bracketed. Because if they'll bracket Demarcus Robinson, who won't they bracket?
Which I understand that, which leads me to another point. Just another little something that stuck out. Everybody's concerned like how the Chiefs' offense is going to be without Tyreek Hill, no explosive plays, blah, 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 blah. But the Chiefs led the league in 12-plus plays last year per drive. The Chiefs led the league in that.
We still have Hardman, too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, there is an issue with that, though. Let me see if I can find it here really quick.
I'm talking about speed, though.
Hardman's better with the ball in his hands. I think he's a better runner than receiver.
I don't think I could disagree on that.
Give me a second, because I have a stat that goes to that I just shared on Twitter today.
1/1000.
Sounds to me like you're seconds up.
Do we need to show the clip of the 13 seconds?
Sure. As long as it doesn't get us a copyright strike for the NFL.
We'll get taken down real quick again.
I will fix that so that
Talk
they
for an hour and a half longer.
I will fix that so that they don't do that again. But yeah, I haven't done it yet. Anyway, the what I'm looking for, I know I have it. I just got to find it because I have about 10 screenshots here. But the stat was talking about what happened in 2021 versus 2020 on a drive that we had a negative play. And, the punchline of that was that compared to 2020, when we had a negative play on a drive in 2021, our expected points added on that drive was a whole point less than it was in 2020 if we had a negative play on a drive. In other words, if something minimally bad happened, our offense wasn't good enough in 2021, to do as much as they were in 2020. Whereas if you looked at the same thing for when there wasn't a negative play, just any other play, neutral or positive, our offense was just as good, if not better. And so for whatever it was, the negative play, and I believe they said in here, a chunk of those plays were drops. So that was part of it, but and I think that part was in a section talking about how much the defense underperformed, and so that could lend itself into the defense put pressure on Pat argument, but the explosive plays do matter, and part of the reason that teams were dropping 7 and 8 and not blitzing anymore. The blitz doesn't work with Mahomes, and the more you make them dink and dunk on any drive, the more you leave yourself susceptible to turnovers or drops, ended drives. So I just want to say the explosive play absolutely still matters. Last year they were just getting it more through yards after catch. So hopefully the running game can help with that a little bit, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to what Nagy does with this, and we've spent 15-20 minutes and we just talked about the quarterback position.
Yep.
But I guess my question would be, Mahomes is going to turn 27 here in 2 or 3 weeks. So how much longer do we expect that he needs Chad Henne there? When do we take the training wheels off and say, hey, listen,
That's for a different line. Running backs.
I'm with Gooch.
All right, so are we going with 3 quarterbacks? Because we never answered that question.
Yep, I'm going. If they don't cut Henning, they're going 3.
Agreed.
Okay. Running backs. I think I know what Gooch is going to say here. We're keeping CEH. We're keeping Pacheco. We're keeping McKinnon. They're going to try to trade Rojo. Is that what you're going to say, Gooch?
Yeah. And Gore goes back to the practice squad, and Burton makes the team.
I'm good with that.
And it's just because Andy himself said, Rojo did real good. He ran hard, he didn't hurt himself, or whatever may happen down the road.
He ran hard in the last game.
That is not the ending statement. Is he didn't hurt himself, and whatever may happen down the road. Does not sound like the words of a coach who was keeping that particular running back, and they are busy trying to find some trade partners.
I mean, yeah, I understand that line of thinking, but I could also understand if someone said, well, that could just mean that he didn't work himself off the roster bubble. And that could also be directed at other players. Like you had the Derek Gore fumble, things like that. I just think it's so hard to evaluate based on the third game, because the first 2 games, nobody was getting anything in the run game. The third game, everybody was getting something in the run game. So, I'm sure they're going to look at things in way more detail than we are. And, they have the benefit of seeing everything in practice. But I don't know. Like, this preseason, to me, it's been nearly impossible to really evaluate the running backs other than, like I said, after Thursday night's game, you could clearly see some of those great runs by Pacheco, even in tight spaces there. So I don't know. Because they used Burton on 3rd and short situations. They gave Pacheco that 4th and short carry that the offensive line didn't block properly for him. Did we see Rojo in that many, end short situations? Because if, he's supposed to be this powerful runner, I would have liked to have seen him in those situations. I'm not saying he didn't look good when he was running in the third game, but, I mean, even CEH looked good running in the third game. So
I didn't think so. Or I didn't notice. him doing any different than prior. Everybody else I did.
Well, I think what he has going for him, though, usually this front office, when they have veterans like that and, they know which way they're going, someone like Rojo, and I mean, yeah, Gooch is going to say, they're going to try to trade him. So, I'll concede that. But if they were going to cut him, I would think they would have already done it well before the end of preseason game number 3 to give him a chance to latch on with another team. So I guess in that sense, I won't argue against a trade, but I don't really see it cut either. So I would say either trade or he makes the roster. So, Aaron, I guess the vote's up to you. How we go with this one?
Yeah, I don't really see him staying on the roster. He is about the only real change of pace, other than Pacheco can run way faster than the guy that's going to end up starting, at least at the beginning of the season. So if you call that a change of pace, I don't know. I could go either way on this. They have not played many of the veteran running backs that they've had on the team.
All right. Well,
so Sean McCoy didn't play much, and then Bell didn't play much, and
we're talking about guys who were, 28, 29, 30?
Micah Hyde went to
Carlos
Hyde.
Carlos Hyde showed how bad that offensive line was, though, because the moment we traded him, he looked way better with the Texans' offensive line. Yeah, but the big difference, they have played McKinnon, though, so that would be the counter to that. But
they waited on him, though, for the playoffs.
Yeah, because of his injury history, which is why it's almost hard for me to fathom. We're gonna keep McKinnon and stash him again, basically during the regular season. I don't know if I see that making sense if that's what we're planning to do again, because it's kind of what we did last year. But he's like 31 years old, and he's torn his ACL in both knees, and he's had an extensive injury history. He's certainly dynamic, but the age and the injury history give me some pause as to how they're going to use him. But
I could see them splitting carries to start with, basically him and Pacheco.
But my point was, it's hard to call Rojo a veteran the same way you can call LaShawn McCoy and Le'Veon Bell a veteran, because they were 28, 29 when they were with the Chiefs, and Ronald Jones is still only 24. He's only like a year older than Clyde.
And he didn't do anything yet last year.
Well, yeah.
Do we try to trade him back to Tampa Bay? So that would just be hilarious.
Well, at this point, they might just move Fournette to the offensive line, since he's about big enough, and they've lost 3 or 4 of them. And they could slot Jones back in there. But, I think a Tom Brady offense doesn't really, fit Rojo's game, because he's not a pass protector. He's not a whole lot of a pass catcher, so
Right.
Which is the one thing that McKinnon and Pacheco do well. CEH is okay, but Pacheco and McKinnon do block. And I could see McKinnon being used in the screen game. I actually think they keep him because, one, he's still fast. and you can't teach speed. And two, I mean, I think the older guys, like I think Kelsey, I think Kelsey's gonna get his 1,000 yards, but I think they're gonna hide him more. And I think they'll do the same thing with McKinnon to try and keep him fresh for the playoff run. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? The one thing that most teams like to do is if they can hold off certain things until the playoffs, especially Andy. You know what I'm saying? So if you can keep McKinnon healthy and stash him away and do a couple screens here and there, but then unleash him on the playoffs when CEH and Pacheco hit the wall again or CEH gets hurt.
I'm going to go ahead and kick him off the roster. I think veterans just don't do well on this team. I don't know if it's the bad habits they've learned elsewhere or what. They think they're going to make the roster just because, which I think he started getting an inkling that he wasn't going to make the roster, which is why he ran so hard in the third game. But I think it was too little too late now.
I just think it's so hard to even like make a judgment, of who ran hard and who didn't, simply because of, like I said, it was like the whole units. Like it wasn't one guy; it was the whole units each game. First game, the whole running back unit, save Michael Burton, didn't look good. The whole second game, they didn't look good. Maybe that's because they were doing different concepts in those games, or the different plays. Like I think Burton's was an inside zone run, so maybe that's the issue. Maybe the issue is they're working on the different inside zone, outside zone, gap and all these things with each running back, and some of them, were doing better. Some of them. And part of the problem is, and I think maybe it was Seth Kaiser in his Chief in the North newsletter last week, about Pacheco and CEH. I think it was Seth that pointed it out. It only takes one missed block by a offensive lineman on a run play to completely blow that play up. Whereas with a pass, if that happens, the pass is way safer. Because if one offensive lineman screws up, usually you can do enough to where your quarterback can make something happen a little bit. But in the run game, like we saw with that where Pacheco got destroyed there, one miscue by one offensive lineman and it can blow the whole play up. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to evaluate this preseason, our running backs, other than the third game, everybody looked better, but I still felt like Pacheco was able to squeeze through some holes and showed improvement in his vision to me. So,
and it has the speed to do something about it.
Right. That's the big thing, is he's got the juice to where CEH gets 4 to 6 yards. Pacheco was getting 14 yards. And that's an explosive run play right there. So, that's
why Clyde gets hurt, and he steps in and steps up, and Clyde doesn't have his job back.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you figure what it is, say, it is 40 yards if you start at the 25, right, on a kick return. If you get to the 25, you only have to go about 40 yards to get in, if even that, but say 40 yards to feel comfortable to be in Butker's range to at least have 3 points, right? So you're looking at 4 first downs. That's all it takes. And so if you got a running back who can squeeze out 10 or 15 yards, one run every drive or 2 or 3, it makes a big difference compared to a guy who's literally just taking what he's given and squeezes, 4 yards out here and there. So
it's a very interesting point, though. I do like that by Seth. It's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was one of his free articles or not, but even his like a subscription there is super cheap. So if anyone still isn't subscribed to
Wasn't
Chief in the
cheap for
North
me.
newsletter, well, you're paying some kind of crazy, I don't even know what. Gooch is paying way more than full price. So Gooch is like a founder, basically. He's bought in stock in Seth or something. Adopting one of Seth's children or something.
No, he doesn't have as many as you, but he does have 5.
Okay, so we have 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, so we're at 7.
We going to tight end?
That's counting Burton. So yeah, let's go to tight end.
We can say the 3.
Right. Well, initially, I mean, we have to say 4 initially, if we believe they're going to keep Bell and they're going to put him on IR and bring him back. So.
Well, let's say we already did that.
Okay, so that's 4. Travis, Jody, Noah, who has looked way better, in my opinion, this preseason, and then Blake Bell, and then they put him on IR, and that opens up a spot. Is that what we're going with?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I think.
All right, so that's 4 right there. So now we're at 11, and that leaves us with offensive line and wide receiver. So you're gonna go with which one? I think we can do both these pretty easily.
Offensive
Wide
line.
Okay, offensive line. Brown, Tooney, Creed, Smith, Wiley, Christensen, Allegretti, Prince Winnebago. End of list.
All right, that's 8.
Kennard.
I think Kennard goes to the practice squad.
And I don't on this one.
Yeah, part of me wants to say I don't think he does initially. Maybe he does, but I don't know. At this point, I think there's going to be some numbers to play with to where, unless they really want to keep 7 wide receivers, and maybe when we do the numbers here, I'll be proven wrong, but I don't think there will necessarily be a numbers crunch offensively to where they even need to risk it if they really think that another team would take them. But who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could go only 8.
So I think I'm gonna say I don't know that I see a need for both Garen Christian and Prince Tega Winogo. Because they're both offensive tackles, and I think you can get by. And Christian's a swing tackle. He's been a swing tackle. Last year he filled in at left tackle when Laramie Tunsil went down for the Texans, and he did a pretty good job at it. So, I think he's your swing tackle. Do you need another guy after him? If Tooney is your backup after him, and that's an assumption on my part, but that's the way I think they would go with it. If Brown went down and then Christian went down, scooting Tooney over and putting Allegretti there, or was Tooney only the second backup because Trey Hendrickson has short arms, and that was the opponent that Brown and Niang got injured in. So I'll go with you, Aaron, on that one. If you want to say that, because he's a coin flip to me right now. I think it really depends on all the extra information that they know that we don't know. So if you want to do that, that puts us at what, 9?
Right.
And I still think I'm
we
not.
could
sold
always
on,
change it to Niang too, and then he goes to IR,
He's already on the pup list, I think, so I don't even think they
Oh,
have
really?
to worry about that.
Oh, okay.
If you
So he's already done for the season.
do, you see Prince take
No,
that
they
one?
they can bring him back after week 4.
Yeah, I mean the pup list is one because he was already injured. Blake Bell wasn't injured to start the off, the OTAs and training camp and all that. He got injured, in the preseason. Niang got injured last year, so he was still injured this season. So,
I mean, if you're going to get injured, I guess scoring a touchdown is the perfect time to do
right.
it.
So, Aaron, do you see Prince Tega Winogo making the 53 or not?
It's basically between him and Kennard. Is that what you're saying, Steve?
I'm just asking you so we know if we're going with 8 offensive linemen or 9.
Well, I was going with 9, including
Okay.
him.
Okay. So that puts us at what? 20? Does that put us at 20? 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, that's 7. 4 tight ends to begin with, that's 11. And then 9, yeah, so 20 initially. And then it'll go down to 19, technically, after they put Bell on IR. So 20, and then wide receivers: Hardman, Juju, Skymore, MVS. I'm going to say Justin Watson is 5, and then number 6, Fountain for you.
Aaron Parker. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Yes, Fountain.
They already waived Parker.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not even funny then.
That catch was awesome, though.
Yeah.
So you have 6 with those guys. I would agree with that 6. Gooch?
I've liked Fountain since last year.
Gooch, are you the same there, or are you different?
Juju, MVS, Sky, Hardman, Watson, and Fountain.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like we're in agreement there. That's 6. So that puts us at 26 on the offensive side. So that leaves us with 24 on the defensive side.
Where are we starting there?
Hefe, is that to be a cheerleader or? All right, 24 on the defensive side.
I wouldn't even want to see Pat throw him the ball. I don't know what he'd do, but he wouldn't catch it.
If he did catch it, he might moonwalk into the end zone.
He'd do a TikTok while the ball was in the air.
That'd kind of be funny, though. Pat hikes the ball, and then he gets into like a selfie position with the cornerback, and he starts dancing with them. And then the cornerback gets into it, and then all of a sudden Jackson breaks into a route and catches the ball. It sounds like a move meant for one of the new Madden game modes that they have. He can be a character in that. I forget what that mode is called. Anyway, defensive line: Frank Clark, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Carlos Dunlop, Mike Dana, Danny Shelton. Are we a yes on him? Danny Shelton?
Yes.
Wharton Saunders. That's 8. You can throw in a guy like Herring, or Kando. Is Stallworth still technically on the roster? I think those were the 8 that I see. You guys can disagree or you can add to that list. But those are the ones that I see right now.
Dana, Naughty, Jones, Clark.
Oh, I forgot Naughty, so that would be 9, I think.
Okay, then yeah, I'm with you. Gooch, do you have anything to add? Do you think they keep Stallworth?
All I'll say about that is Stallworth played a lot of downs in the preseason games. Like, I saw him out there in the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. So, again, it's hard to read into it, but I didn't read into that as a positive. So,
He had some good plays, though. I figured he was a shoo-in for the roster early on. Now, not so much.
right. Yeah, and I think bringing in Danny Shelton was maybe some writing on the wall, but who knows?
And then I think Herring is a possibility. Don't know how likely. But we stashed him last year.
Yeah, that would take us up to 10.
He definitely did more than Kendo.
10, and you're talking 5 defensive ends, and we're only going to have, we're only going to be in our 4-3 alignment 25% or so of the time. I think would kind of be the thing, right?
I had us set. That would be 5 DNs and 5 defensive tackles.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think is what we do.
I don't think we go 10. That leaves us with 14 for the rest of the defense. I don't know. Maybe that could work. What do you think, Gooch? I agree, Gooch. All right, let's move on. He fell asleep on the toilet. Don't worry, everybody. He probably put a pillow on top of it so he could rest his head. So, linebackers then.
Bolton, Gay, Lee, Chanel, Harris.
Yep, that was the 5 I was going to say. Although, if you
Harris really impressed me this year. I have not been impressed with him up to this year.
Right. Only big issue there is if you cut Jermaine Carter, that's like $1.7 million you're throwing away.
I don't think it's enough to keep them from doing it.
Well, but is it enough for Dave Tobe to fight for him to stay on his special teams unit?
Not if he gets to keep Bush.
Well, that's another guy that they paid. I think those guys they paid especially to come be a part of special teams. But I'm not arguing that I want Carter on the roster, and I think he looked slow. When I saw him out there at linebacker, and again, I admitted I might be biased because he's wearing Anthony Hitchens' number, but I still wonder when you give a player a contract like that. And one way you're kind of telling everyone you expect that player to make the roster. And so I think from the beginning that was a Dave Tobe free agent signing, and I wonder if it's going to be a Dave Tobe decision on whether he makes the roster or not.
Who are we talking about?
Jermaine Carter Jr.
Nah, he's not on this team.
I love how Gooch took a a break from the toilet long enough to answer that one. Gooch, you want
Actually,
to?
I'd actually gotten a notification that out of the top 20, Kelsey was ranked number 10.
Huh.
Oh. Okay.
So what about Darius Harris and Elijah Lee, Gooch?
I actually think that's. I mean, if you want me to be honest, I think the Chiefs carry 5.
Okay.
I think Darius Harris played his way onto the roster that last game.
Yeah. I was impressed with him in the second game as well.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, but he really stood out the last game. Like, and I think that was the play recognition,
absolutely.
getting behind the line. I think he played himself on. I think Jermaine
Getting
Carter's the
away from
last one.
blocks.
Right. I think Carter is too slow to play in this defense with all those fast guys. He may be the veteran. I think he's too slow. I think
I
you've got
agree.
Bolton, Gay, Chanel Harris, and Elijah Lee.
Yeah, I don't think we disagree on that. I think it's
We're
just a
all
question if Tobe wants them on his special teams or not. But
I think this year more than most, we have a lot of guys who can do special teams as well as play offense or defense. I mean, in the years prior, we've only had like a couple guys who would do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, in this year, it's almost like you can almost interchangeable. In my opinion. In my opinion.
So how about the defensive line, Gooch? I don't know if you heard our picks for the defensive line, but we need yours. I can give you what we said, and you can decide here which way we go.
The whole defensive line?
Yeah, I think we had a lot of basically the same ones. It just came down to Aaron had 10. He had Malik Herring on there, and I only had 9. And we had, of course, Frank and Dana, Dunlop and Karloftis, Jones, Noddy, Shelton, Wharton, and Saunders were the 9 that we were in agreement on. It was just a matter of whether we're going to carry 9 or we're going to carry 10 with Malik Herring being Aaron's 10th. Literal crickets.
Because I'm trying. I agree with all of those. There was somebody that you named in the beginning that I was like, I would switch Herring for him.
So Dana, I think would have been about the only person I said at the beginning that you would.
Yeah, I would have switched Herring for Dana.
And I thought Dana showed up a fairly good.
He looked faster, that's for sure.
If he did, I missed it, but of course I was working a lot during the games too. So, like, I wasn't able. Like, I'm watching them, and when I watch them again. I watch all offense, and I have to go back and watch them again for the defense, and I just hadn't done it. Right. I mean, I'm still all I can really go off of is memory, and I just remember Herring more than I do Dana.
I could see that with the amount of snaps, especially.
So you're at 9, I'm at 9, and Aaron's at 10, and we're just in disagreement about whether it's Dana or Herring.
That's what it sounds like to me.
I mean, that's kind of a tough one because, you know, Gooch and I agree on the numbers. Aaron and Gooch agree on... Well, no, they don't even agree on... They agree that Herring's going to be on the roster, though. While Aaron and I agree that Dana's going to be on the roster. So, I don't know what we do there for the tiebreaker.
I always like these cut downs, man. It's interesting to me.
What do you all say?
Yeah, we'll give you guys 3 minutes to let us know while we move on and talk about cornerbacks and safeties. Let's start
Bring back Bo Pete.
I'm gonna say let's start with the safeties because I think it's going to be a lot easier for us. So,
Let's start giving Keas 3 minutes.
If we have 10 defensive linemen, we have what 14 player. Wait, we picked five linebackers, so that puts us at 9 DBs
Okay.
left. So
I think there's only 4. I think there's only 4 in the safety room.
okay.
So Reed, Thornhill,
Thornhill, Cook, and
Those 3.
Bush.
So Bush or
Bush. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you on Bush.
That
Yeah.
leaves us with 5 cornerbacks, and we know we have Sneed, McDuffie. I think you guys said earlier you felt that Lamons was a lock.
I do. I personally do. I
So
also think the Johnson kid, the one that got burnt or got hit with the flag,
Nazi. Or are you talking about Joshua Williams?
Williams. Joshua Williams. McDuffie, Sneed, Joshua Williams, Lamons, and
Watson.
Watson. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so you think we're gonna cut Fenton, or I mean, with his, who knows, with his injury, they might just try to stash him, put him on IR at the beginning.
And that's what I think. That's what I really think, because he was hurt at the beginning, and those kids, regardless of Fenton basically being, what was he, a 3rd or 4th round pick?
He was originally a 6th when we got him. What?
Okay.
2 years ago.
I mean, he showed up, but these kids are younger, faster. I mean, and you're gonna have growing pains. But in my opinion, and I know it's the complete opposite of Spags, but if I'm gonna have growing pains, they might as well learn together. You know what I'm saying? You got all these young guys, put them out there. The one thing you won't have to worry about is somebody going to get water during a play, a la Sorensen. Someone going to make business decisions, a la Honey Badger. Sorry, landlord, I love you, but you made business decisions last year. And I think Thornhill's better. I've been hearing and seeing. Have you guys noticed that they've been playing Reed up in Matthews' role and letting Bryan Cook run the back end with Thornhill?
It makes sense to me, honestly.
Either way, I think Fenton, with his injury history, like he said, because I went off topic there. I think Fenton with the shoulder, and now with the is it the hamstring now?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
I think you go ahead and stash him, let him get healthy, and obviously during the season, there's always somebody you can. I mean, how many times did they cut Ryder or Wiley last year and bring them back? You know what I'm saying? There's always somebody you can let go and sign back to the practice squad or whatever if Fenton's healthy and can go.
Yeah, it's actually his 4th season. Fenton's.
You might be able to get something for him, a la Tavarius Ward,
All right. Yeah, I like Fenton, and I think the biggest thing is with his size, his lack of vertical, and his lack of speed. It's like he's at best he's your 2nd or 3rd slot guy at best, and you probably don't even want that. At that point, you would be better off, I think, sliding Sneed into, to be one of the slot guys, and putting one of your taller rookies, outside instead. And so it's almost, to me, like McDuffie is now your short cornerback. He's your short cornerback, and do you want to have 2 of those guys? And
well, not to mention, Keys, that and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know you're mid thing, but he doesn't have the vertical of McDuffie, and he doesn't have the speed of all the other corners. Fenton had more holding calls on him because he's not as fast, so he's a little more grabby. And these kids with all this speed can be less grabby, and you get less holding on the back end and this, that, and the other. Like
He's always been physical, though, and I've liked that about him.
Yeah, but at some point, you got to let him go. You know what I'm saying? And those calls will eat you up. I think it's one of those where, you played yourself onto a team when nobody expected you to. You were great for what we were doing, which was bend, don't break. But I think the attitude of the defense has changed. I mean, these kids are willing to tackle and hit. You know what I'm saying? It's. I hate this term. What have you done for me lately? But you don't want to be on this team and those kids show you up and you lose your spot, because then you're not going to be able to make much more money because people are going to assume you're just a bench player now. You know what I'm saying? I like him. I just don't think he fits.
I would agree with that, and especially like you said, like we're going in a different direction now, and clearly we're going faster and taller, and Fenton is like everything you could have been afraid of with McDuffie. Like he ran a 4.52 and his vertical was only 34 inches, and going back and looking at his Ross score, his relative athletic score, and everything was either poor or okay, other than his size, which was merely good. Nothing was elite, and nothing was above average there. So, like athletically, I don't know how he would fit in our cornerback room with what we're going to need to do against other teams' wide receivers, because especially the AFC West, those other teams, spent the last few years trying to emulate what we were doing with our speed. And to me, Fenton is going to be a prime guy that they would take advantage of, and they've already been taken advantage of.
Exactly. And I think this is the one place where I like being a Chiefs fan, because it always seems like we're ahead of the curve on everything. We may not have won, but we were ahead of the curve on the dual tight ends. Marty Ball was ahead of everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Vermeil did the greatest show on turf. But I mean, we collected people weren't worried about the offensive line as much until we put together the greatest offensive line ever assembled. You know what I'm saying? Then we did Andy Reid comes. We put together probably the greatest offense. One of the greatest offenses that's ever been assembled. And now, as people are gearing up to go touchdown for touchdown with the Chiefs, we've switched over and we're like, okay, so we've got fast players on the offensive side. Now we've got 4-3-4-4 corners and 4-3-4-4 safeties and 4-4-4-5 linebackers. You know what I'm saying? Like, now you guys are going to take all that speed that you have, and we're going to be able to run this defense without bracketing 2 to 3 people because we've got speed guys. I'm just a Chiefs homer. You know what I'm saying? But in my eyes, like, all those people that have been gearing to catch up with us obviously didn't realize that, okay, our offense was already done. So while you spent all your draft capital and stuff on offense, we turned around and all those guys we got fast guys on defense now. You're not going to burn us. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to throw over the top. There are people going to get their catches, Keenan Allen, Devontae, all that stuff. But I actually have more faith in these kids than most people do, and I think we'll have a top 15 defense. When you give Pat a top 15 defense, this team is scary good.
Yeah, and talking about the defense, I think it kind of goes into to Scott's question here about the training wheels removal, when I was talking about how long do we keep Henny or when do we remove the training wheels, and he said right around the time he figures out how to throw the ball away versus what we saw in the AFC Championship game. And I think we all know there's a lot of factors there, but one of the stats that was interesting to me, and you can find out a lot of good information about last season by checking out Warren Sharp's football book, Outlook book. And one of the things that you find in there in the Chiefs section is, do you know what offense in the NFL got the least amount of possessions? The Kansas City Chiefs. Our offense was the most efficient offense in the NFL, and we had the least amount of possessions. And that was largely due to our defense. And I stuck up for our defense in certain games last year after certain games. But the reality was, the defense the last 2 or 3 years has averaged around 20th, 21st. And, Tom Brady doesn't have to put up with that. Josh Allen doesn't have to put up with that. Joe Burrow doesn't even have to put up with that. I don't even think Justin Herbert has to put up with that. But Mahomes has had to do more with less on the other side of the ball. And that fact right there, I think, hugely contributed to Mahomes pressing. Even though I might have argued against that a bit last year. But, the numbers speak for themselves. We had the least amount of possessions of any offense in the NFL last year. And when you have the best quarterback or, arguably best quarterback in the NFL, and you have that offense, and as the defense, number one paid defense last year, we spent more of our cap on defense than any other team in the NFL last year, and our defense still allowed that to happen, that we got the least amount of possessions on offense. Oh, by the way, teams started playing us differently, eliminating, the explosive plays. So not only did we have the least amount of possessions to work with, we were limited in being able to have explosive plays. We were literally forced to matriculate the ball down the field every single time, and to do so with less possessions. All of that points to every single drive was way more crucial than in previous years, and then other teams had to go through. So, Scott, I'm not sure it's so much needing the training wheels removed as it was the defense compounding a lot of this. So, should he have pressed as much? Probably not. But is it completely understandable given those parameters? I think absolutely.
All right. Where are we at now? 3 minutes is up, by the way.
Also, to kind of compound on what Keas said, you don't want him to change too much because his mentality is what's got us not two Super Bowl wins, but back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, 4 AFC Championship games. Like, we want him to throw the ball away, but sometimes that last-minute Favre in him, we like that because there's an unwillingness to give up on a play, maybe when he should, but more often than not, he's been right.
Yeah, we love it when it ends in a highlight play, right?
And more often than not, he's been right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, think about it in his 4 or 5 years in the league, 4 years, whatever, starting, like, he's been more right than wrong. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I think maybe having Tyreek and Kelsey as the safety blankets for so long, when it got down to the nitty gritty, he laser locked in. And because he doesn't trust anyone else because they hadn't earned that. Something that Aaron said or Keas said at the beginning of last year, while he was down there building rapport with Pringle and Kelsey and Tyreek, Hardman was somewhere else. will make up for it in training camp. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is those relationships for crunch time looks are built in the off season. You know what I'm saying? If you're not there to discuss with Mahomes what he's thinking on any given time, you're not going to understand what he's doing when the rubber hits the road. You know what I'm saying? That's just my take on it. Because Mahomes can tell you during the game, I wanted you to do this. Andy is the type of coach, I may not run that play for 6 games. You know what I'm saying? But you don't have that repetitive muscle memory. So when it comes back, you're like, oh, yeah, last time he wanted me to do this, and you can affect it. I am probably one of Mahomes' biggest critics. Footwork, footwork, footwork.
Constructive critic, not
yes,
destructive.
yes.
Yeah.
Right. I just think that before we go trying to change him all the way, just remembering like this is the same guy, and we were praising him when he was holding the ball and making highlight plays and winning. I don't think one game, one half, 2 halves, if you take both games together, defines him. I mean, you can't find a single quarterback, Hall of Fame or otherwise, that didn't have a bad game, a bad 2 games. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna quote old petty Mitch Holthus here. Aaron Rodgers has been in the league how many years? And he's 12-10 in the playoffs. Mahomes has been in it 4 or 5, and he's 8-2. I mean, so we just need to be easy. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was a tangent.
And I think I can get this in 13 seconds here, Aaron. As long as you don't
All right.
as long as you don't count anything up to this point when we start 13 seconds here, if I can remember it, because I'm kind of distracted with kids yelling here. But I would say number one, look at Pat in the Buccaneers game with all of that pressure on him. All right, this is gonna be more than 13 seconds, but look at that. Like it for some reason. It's like when you're a kid and you think your dad is Superman, and something happens where finally you're disillusioned to the fact that your dad isn't Superman like you thought he was, right? And that happened in the Bengals games. It happened in the Bengals games. It didn't happen in the Buccaneers game, even though he had backup offensive linemen, all throughout that game. And so how much of that is Mahomes? And again, how much are the things that we pointed out there, that happened? Because, I mean, when you look at it, and I forget what my next point was, but something that Gooch said that I was just going to go a little bit farther on. But, yeah, I'm going to stop a minute and I'll try to collect my thoughts here.
Yeah, the dog even got involved there.
It's a family affair.
Definitely. So we ended up with 5 corners, getting rid of Fenton for all of us, and the 4.
And we all know the specialists are Winchester, Bucker, and Townsend, with the backups being Reed and Thornhill.
So that would be 53. So here's the only question we haven't answered yet. Who's going to become 53 when we put Blake Bell on IR?
Josh Gordon.
Okay, so you do think that when we drop back down to 3 tight ends, we're going up to 7 wide receivers?
It could honestly, it could be anybody. I
think that's when Lamons gets on, or whatever his name is.
Lamons.
Okay.
I think
If pulling the gooch.
If I wanted to be completely honest, I think that's where Kennard gets on.
I could see that too.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
could as
I
well.
don't think he's shown enough to make the roster. I think he's talented enough that somebody would swoop him up to take a chance on him, and that he wouldn't make the practice squad. That's what I think. I mean, you don't find too many 6'8", 300-pound linemen like Niang who aren't hurt. You know what I'm saying? And it has raw talent and is blocked at right tackle in the SEC. Those guys don't just grow on trees. You know what I'm saying? And if anybody can coach him up, it's Andy, an offensive line guy. You know, so
I mean, the only thing I don't understand there is you would have to waive him and expose him to the waiver wire to begin with if he's not making the initial 53. So it would sound like we would have to have him making the initial 53, and you'd have to be having someone else be that guy.
I mean, you know, there's Ryder you can put on a team and cut.
Well, I mean, we didn't have him even initially on our 53, though. But, I mean, is that where... Man, I don't know. Is that where... Could you do it with McKinnon? Could you cut him, you know, kind of how they did with Jeff Allen a couple of years ago? And then he's back right after the move? Could you do something like that?
I mean, true, you could.
He would be a possibility, I guess.
Are you serious, Wink, to have him at number 8? Who are the 7 players better than him? Oh, my God. If Josh
Most
Allen's
annoying
number
list.
1.
No, it's most annoying list. He's Jackson Mahomes. Oh, you're talking about Wink. Oh, I got you, Scott. Mahomes, really? He's 8 on the top 100 list? Hey, if that is true...
You know what?
If that is true, there's a great chance at some point this year, you know what we're going to see after Mahomes throws a touchdown? We're going to see that. I'll guarantee you, if that is true, we're going to see that. Mally, I want to say the answer is probably Kavari Russell. Is that right? Kavari Russell was like a 4th-round pick, wasn't he? A couple of years ago?
What was...
Let me look
What
it up
was
here.
Powell? Wasn't Powell a 5th-rounder?
I think he was a 5th. All right. No, Kavari Russell was a 3rd-round pick of the 2016 draft. We cut him like that preseason, didn't we? He was a 3rd-rounder. Powell, I think you're right on Powell. Powell was a 5th-round pick. Yeah. So the last time the Chiefs cut a 5th-round pick was literally last year. Yeah. So Russell was a 3rd. That's been 6 years. Cornell Powell was a 5th last year, and we cut him. So Devontae Adams is number 7. Okay, he's not as good as Mahomes.
Nope.
But I think I remembered my point on top of what Gooch was
Where's Tyreek now that he's on a different team?
probably better. I noticed he is in Madden now that he got off of the Chiefs. Like,
Imagine that.
the Madden team magically did stuff that they refused to do while he was in Kansas City. So I'd like to see the explanation for that. But yeah. Anyway, kind of going back to what Gooch was talking about, and what we were talking about with like the Mahomes thing is, you got to also add the pressure on there of all the tipped balls by the receivers and all the tipped ball interceptions on top of that. So not only did we have the defense letting other teams just run the clock out. It doesn't even matter how much they scored. They were getting the time of possession and stuff. They were able to limit the amount of drives we had. And of course, some of that was also our own offense, right? By the opposing defenses making us spend 15 plays, that ate up more clock in some instances. So you start adding all these things together, we had the least amount of offensive drives of any offense in the NFL. Our defense was giving up points on those drives. You have all the tipped balls, you have all the tipped interceptions, and then, oh, by the way, for whatever reason, maybe it's part of the whole, dropping 7 or 8 into coverage and all the too high. By the way, other teams saw too high too, but a lot of the time, those pre-snap looks, those safeties were like 20, 25 yards. I want to say 25 yards without going back, but I know there were times I saw safeties 25 yards off the line of scrimmage pre-snap. Like they were going out of their way to discourage Mahomes from even thinking about Tyreek Hill deep. And then, you throw all that on there, and then you throw that whole negative, the negative EPA thing on there. And you put all this together. Man, I keep forgetting. I was going to throw something else out there, but you throw it all together, and it's a lot to have to overcome. And I'll think of whatever it was here in a minute, but yeah, Mahomes at number 8 is dumb.
Yep.
Especially how many quarterbacks are left.
Probably 3.
I imagine.
I honestly haven't looked at it at all this year.
Well, I mean, the analytics will show something way different, but I mean, whatever.
I just got the fantasy football thing going today. TJ Watt is number 6. I guess Tyreek is 15, like last year. Even though he was popping balls up in the air. Andy Reid doesn't like cutting O linemen. I mean, he drafts O linemen that sticks.
I mean, it's an interesting point because we didn't even cut Parker Ehringer. We traded him to the Cowboys for Charvarius Ward, but
Is he a 5th or 6th?
I don't remember now. And let's see here.
I think it was one of the two.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was excited about that kid to start with.
Hey, Knight, good to see you in here.
Who was that guy that they were trying to switch from defensive line to offensive line?
I don't remember. He was a GM son though.
Ooh, he was a 4th.
GM of the Raiders.
Yes.
Yeah, at that time, and then I think Seattle picked him up when we waived him. I just can't think of who it was though. I think he played at like Tennessee though, didn't he?
That I didn't know. just remember his base was huge, which is why they wanted to turn him into an offensive line, but he couldn't hack it. I think I'm gonna have to get off here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get off here too. I was just trying to think of my last point, but I'm not having much luck. So
Did you get anything?
I think we got the whole 53 though, right?
Yes.
So oh,
There's
Mike in
Mike.
Sweden. Good morning, Mike. We're still in evening.
He's just getting up though.
Starting his day.
Have they put your episode on yet? RGR in the members area.
What's that?
No, we
Which
had
one?
two weeks with Chris Weeks, and then we got Mike in Sweden on the member meetup, the Modfather member meetup. Yet another thing that does not have Gooch's name involved.
He only cares about the Gooch Invitational.
That doesn't exist.
Oh, yes, it does.
Gooch sits on the throne. The name of that throne is probably Gerber, or give me some toilet brands.
Tom Brady.
I hate you both so much.
That might be $1 million idea. Start making like the urinal cakes with teams' face or people's faces on them.
I was gonna say, were you thinking Gooch's face?
No.
So instead of like the truck decals with like the kid urinating on the Ford logo or the Chevy logo,
Right.
like just making urinal cakes with those things on there for you to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Hey, you know what? I bet we could, if we could make some Chargers and Raiders and Broncos ones, and some Bills and Bengals and Buccaneer ones, I bet we could really sell those this season.
Right.
I think there's a market there, Aaron.
Maybe not urinal cakes, but the like plastic things.
Urinal
Put
cakes.
in there.
No, urinal cakes, toilet paper.
Get designing, Steve.
I'll try to. Well, guys, I am afraid I'm going to have to jump off here. So
I am with you.
So I don't know if Gooch wants to jump on and talk to you guys by himself, but otherwise, I think we're going to end up hitting the outro video.
Been a pleasure, everybody. Appreciate you checking in with us. Tell somebody you love them. I'm going to do something special this week. Be on the lookout.
Awesome. I bet I can take a guess or two what that might be here. I don't know how many people caught the beginning of our last show. We started out with a little something here. So, you know what? I'm just going to remove all of us from the stream, and I'll put it up to end this one, and then we'll hit our outro video. So
We'll be back.
hang tight for that. Absolutely.
You got your team, and we got a kingdom. Ready for war, we score at will. We're the Super Bowl champs, the